And now, it's time for Talkin' New York Sports with Billy C. and Brooklyn Mike, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network of programming. And here's your hosts, Billy C. and Brooklyn Mike.
And we're coming at you from the Billy C. studio in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for Talkin' New York Sports with Billy C. and Brooklyn Mike. And speaking of Brooklyn Mike, he joins me right now. What's up, brother?
Good morning, brother. How are you today?
I'm okay. We're going to get to it a little later. You put your nose to the grindstone. You're finally up on me, man. You're up on me on the football picks.
Yes, I am. It took all these weeks, but I finally caught up to you. Actually, I'm one game up, I think. Right?
I know. Yeah, you're caught up and past me. You're +1.
One.
Now, wait a minute. The first week, weren't you ahead of me? I mean, were you in front?
The first week you were 6 games up.
No. That was after the second time. I don't know if I started out 1 game up or if we started. I started a little behind, but after the very first week, I was not that much ahead of you. I think you had a bad week the second week. I'm pretty sure that's the way it went.
I thought the Giant game you picked correct the first week, and that was a Thursday or a Wednesday game, and then I thought you were up like 5 or 6 games after the first week, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought it was this. I know I was up. I know because I was bragging about the 6 games. I know that, but I didn't think it was the very first week. Oh well. Hey, that 6 is now -1 for me and +1 for you. So all is good there. Of course, we got a lot of Jet stuff to talk about and some Giant discussion. We got some basketball news coming up. The Jets, and I can't believe people are still talking about them making a running the tables. I want to look at that. But before we get started, there's some baseball stuff. Yeah, let's talk about baseball because the winter meetings are over, and the Mets, they didn't really do anything. And I saw a couple of young pitchers go right under their nose, and they're actively trying to get rid of Dickey, I guess.
Yeah, they are trying to get rid of Dickey, but Sandy Olson said he's not going to get rid of Dickey unless he gets a big package for him, meaning he wants a player that's all ready to step into the major leagues and be a starter, looking for like an outfielder with some pop. They're just, they're willing to start the season with R.A. Dickey. It's not mandatory that they trade him, because they know what they want, and if they don't get it, they're not going to pull the trigger.
The thing is that even if they give him a contract, now I'm not one that thinks he's worth more than a couple of year extension because of his age and stuff, and the nature of the knuckleballer syndrome. But he's a cheap get. I mean, he's a pitcher that you can get fairly inexpensive, and I just think. To avoid complexity, I think that the Mets are better off keeping him. I mean, he's the only guy that you can really count on in the Mets bullpen. I mean, for their whole pitching staff. They signed Wright. They came up with the money for him. I think they need to sign Dickey. I think they do, and I think they can get him cheap. They've said that everything is basically agreed upon between the two sides, except the dollar amount, which means it can be worked.
Yeah, they're a little bit apart in the dollar amount. The R.A. Dickey's team is asking for 2 years at $26 million, plus they're under contract for 2013 for $5 million, so that's $31 million over.
We just lost you, Brooklyn Mikey. So I'll get you back here. It sounds like we're going to have one of those problems today. It sounds like we're going to have phone issues, and I'm going to flip out because my tolerance level is low. Yeah, my tolerance. I have a new box to set up the phone system in. I just haven't physically plugged it in yet. But anyway, go ahead, finish your thought, man.
I was saying that Dickey wants $26 million. For a 2-year extension plus the $5 million that he's guaranteed for 2013, and the Mets are willing to give him $20 million for 2-year extension plus the $5 million. So they're $6 million apart, and that could be worked out. So I think the best thing to do is keep him for at least 2013. If he goes to free agency next year, they'll lose him completely. That's my opinion. So hopefully they'll go into 2013, see how he's pitching. And maybe if another team needs him by the All-Star break, Mets can pull the trigger there, or they can, get that extension done within the course of the year. But right now, since nobody's offering, what Sandy Olson wants, right now they're willing to go into the 2013 season with RA in the lineup.
$6 million difference. Jeez, how can someone survive on $6 million, man? I just don't get it. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean it seems petty at this point, but I've been also hearing rumors that it's not only the money, but they're not getting along, is what I'm hearing, and I can't understand how you can't get along with a guy like R.A. Dickey. He's just a fan favorite. I mean, you've seen how he is off the field, how he conducts himself. But there's just rumblings that they're just not getting along for some reason. So I don't know what it is exactly. You hear rumors and stuff, but because $6 million is not a lot. In the scheme of things, you cut that in half and you say, okay, we'll make it 3 and we'll have a deal. So I just don't know what it is, but I think they're going to go into the season with RA. That's just my gut feeling. I know Texas was willing to give up their prospect, Mike Alt, who is an outfielder for Texas and who's major league ready, I think, at this point. But I think they're waiting to see if Greinke signs with the Dodgers and if they get Josh Hamilton back. So, like I said, it's a wait and see. Right now, the winter meetings are over, and right now, RA is still a Met, and my gut feeling is he starts the season as a Met.
I don't know if I'm really against that. He's no spring chicken. I think that the interest in him, despite his success, people are going to look at that. They're going to look at his age. They're going to look at the question marks that surround knuckleball pitchers, even R.A. Dickey. I don't know if you can fault the Mets for wanting to see how how his season starts in the spring. But on the other hand, he starts off good. They just rolled the dice and. The price goes up as far as R.A. Dickey's concerned, So I think it's a catch-22. I think both sides, it would be advantageous for both sides to come to an agreement before the season, go for a 2-year extension, and he'll probably finish his career as a Met.
Yeah, I mean, I would like that because I don't think the Mets are going to get what they want. Because, like you said, he's up there in age. He's 38. He's a knuckleballer, and even though he won the Cy Young Award, it's not like he's like Lincecum won when he was 22 years old. I mean, then he was a hot, commodity, and people would have given their right arm to have Lincecum on their team. But RA's 38, and he just had a great season. And keep in mind the 2 seasons prior to him winning the Cy Young Award, he had good seasons for the Mets. There wasn't the Cy Young kind of caliber season that he had last year, but he had very good seasons.
Yeah, we lost you again, Mike. So I'm going to have to. Get you back. I apologize for that. I know he had a good year. There's no that was quick. He definitely had a good year. With the Mets, and like I said, I wouldn't blame the Mets if they wait. The thing I'm just confused about is the weakest part of the Mets team right now, as far as I see it. You could project strength with the pitching, but that's the weakest group that they have. And to get rid of a guy that really has been solid, like we're talking about, I think would be foolish. I don't know if I trade my only solid pitcher for an outfielder that I have in my farm system.
Well, I kind of disagree with what you said. I think their strength is their starting pitching.
How can you say that?
How can I say that?
Yeah.
Because you have Jonathan Neese, who's a young, good left-hander who's, he's only getting better. I think Dylan G was going to come back fine. Santana, he won't be the same old Santana, but he should give you enough to be a quality number 2 or number 3 starter. I want to see what Matt Harvey has for a full season. And if Wheeler does well in AAA, bring up Zach Wheeler. So I think the starting pitching is pretty strong. The weak part is their bullpen and their outfield. That's what I think.
Well, I mean, you look at Neese, Jonathan Neese. I like. There's no question about that. I think I agree with you. He is a solid pitcher. Guy is a question mark. I loved him at first, but he kind of fell apart. Santana is another question mark. This guy hasn't pitched a full season. We're hoping for nothing but the best. But last time we talked, I mean, we both agree that you're not going to get the old Santana. You're just happy to get a Santana that can go 6 innings consistently, which, again, now you're putting pressure on your bullpen that you don't have. Harvey and Wheeler, I love them both. I love the youth movement, and I'm all for, rolling the dice and going with the youth, but neither one are proven, So I don't know. I mean, if you take those same 5 and you sprinkle in R.A. Dickey, I'm okay with that. Now maybe let's get some bullpen help, and I'd go with our young outfielders that we have in the because face it, a good outfielder that's a hitter is going to demand big bucks, and if you only have so much money to spend, I'd invest it in pitching.
I think that even if you have RA, like you said, back in the rotation, it's a pretty good rotation.
If we have RA,
but who's our outfield? That's the problem. Lucas Duda, Jordani Valdespin, Mike Baxter. I mean, who are these guys? I mean, it's a weak outfield with no power whatsoever. I mean, Duda will give you some home runs, but he went into that terrible slump last year, and they had to send him back down. Once they got a book on him, that was it. Then you got the other what's his name, Ken something.
I love that. Yeah, the football player.
All right.
I like him.
But Neuenhuis.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, once they got a book on that guy, I mean, it was all over for him.
But it's the other way. It's the other way around. It's the other way around too. Again, listen. You seem to like the coaching and the management of the Mets. I think they're right up there with the Jets. I think they've been making some. And listen, I know what you're thinking and what you're going to say. I understand that their hands are tied. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm not okay with it, but I mean, I understand. But I don't know, man. Listen, we keep hearing 2014 from management about the Mets. Then let's go with a youth movement. I don't want to see another Jason Bay, man. I don't want to see another guy like that. I don't want to see another, big dollar guy that's not going to produce in New York. It happens too much, Mikey. You know that.
Yeah, but you're not going to see a big dollar guy. I mean, Sandy Alderson's got like $15 million to play with, and he's going to have to spread that around with bullpen help, outfield help, and maybe another starting pitcher if they don't re-sign. Oh, I mean, I shouldn't say re-sign because Dickey's with the team no matter what. But if they do trade him, they're going to probably trade him for an outfielder. So he's got $15 million to spend on pitching, which is not a lot. And you're not going to see another Jason Bay because that was a 4-year, $66 million deal. They're not going to do that. They just gave $138 million to David Wright to make him the face of the franchise forever. And that's it.
I hate that.
That's it.
I hate that they did that. But I mean, I think they spent too much on him.
They did. There's no doubt about it.
He's not that good.
David Wright.
He's consistent. But Jesus, in today's base, I go back as a kid, and you look at baseball in the 70s and the 80s, and these guys. I mean, what we're paying. It's funny. I'm good friends with Randy St. Clair. He used to be the pitching. I say used to. They didn't officially get rid of him, but it looks like he's going to take a job with the Mets organization. They moved their minor league team from Buffalo to Vegas, so looks like he's going to be taking a spot there. But I mean, when he pitched in the majors, which was during the 80s and early 90s. Our ERA, I mean, he wouldn't even get up to, they wouldn't even bring him up from AAA because his ERA was 3, and now, they pay a pitcher, 3.3 ERA is like, they're doing backflips over that, and it just seems that the expectations are lowered. David Wright, $140 million. I mean, listen, I know he's the face. I know he's consistent when he's not hurt. I know he makes that barehanded, patented friggin' play from third to first on every ball that's hit to him. But is he worth that much money? I just don't think so.
No, I think, they definitely overpaid for him. But they compared David Wright to guys like Zimmerman on Washington and to Tampa Bay, their third baseman, Longoria. Longoria, out of the three, I think is the best, and he's also 3 years younger. So his contract, if you take it year by year.
Well, we lost you again, Mikey. We lost you again. It must be the weather. So we'll try and get you back. The thing is that with $138 million, I think that's what he ended up signing for $138 million. I mean, you give the Mets $138 million, Mike, And maybe they can beef up the pitching bullpen. Maybe they can get a couple of other players. I mean, for a team that has no money to put all their eggs into one player, it just seems foolish to me.
No, a lot of that contract is also deferred. It's backloaded. They're saving money right now up front. But look, Billy, what it comes down to, they need a third baseman. And there's not a handful of third basemen out there that they can go out and get. And he is a consistent 300 hitter. He's going to give you 25, 26 home runs a year. And that's the market price for a guy like that at third base. That's the market. He doesn't dictate the market price. The other players have dictated that, and the Mets had to pay accordingly. And they gave him a little bit extra. Don't forget, his first contract that they signed with, they got a deal with this guy. I mean, it was for like $57 million for like 6 years. So, I mean, considering what he has done, they got their money's worth. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well,
so
hopefully
he got rewarded, and he's on par with the other three, third basemen that I just mentioned before. So, it is what it is. I think it's a good thing that they showed a commitment, instead of just letting him go like they did with Jose Reyes.
Let's see what we're saying, by the middle of the summer. All right, let's see what we're saying, and we'll see if you're donning a David Wright shirt. Okay.
Well, I will never don a David Wright shirt. I mean, the only Mets shirts that I will wear are Seaver, McGraw, and Piazza.
Well, no Gooden.
Nah, man, no.
He was my favorite, man. Doc Gooden was
he?
my favorite. Yeah, Doc Gooden. I mean, Tom Seaver, of course. Tommy Agee was the guy, when I was a kid. But Doc Gooden. And I loved Pedro when Pedro was with the Mets. I mean, I used to go to the Mets games all the time just to see Doc Gooden and Pedro Martinez. I mean, they were it was exciting, and I could care less what happened, just to watch those guys pitch across the river there in the Bronx. Speaking about R.A. Dickey, they showed some interest in R.A. Dickey, and I got to be honest with you. The Yankees look awfully old on paper all of a sudden, Mikey. I mean, they signed Pettit, which they gave him. Talk about overpaid. They're being they said they're being frugal this year, but I thought they gave Andy Pettit, a guy that's 150 years old and a rickety 150. I think they overpaid him, and Mariano Rivera too. I mean, he decided he's going to come back. How good can he be at 41?
Actually, I think he's 42 or 43.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he might be he'll be 43. I think by the time the season starts. So you're right there. He's going to be 43. So
43, right?
Yeah.
There's no doubt they overpaid for Andy Pettit. $12 million for a guy who started only half the year. Granted, it wasn't his shoulder that gave him the problem. It was he had a broken fibula. It was a freak accident, but listen, they need quality starts, and Andy does give you quality starts. And even at his age, he was pitching well before he broke his leg. And as far as Mariano, he was also pitching well, before he had that freak accident, shagging fly balls in Kansas City. So you don't think his skills were going to deteriorate drastically? So they paid him what you pay a number one closer. As far as the rest of the team, they are old. I mean, Jeter's getting up there in age. He's 39 years old. A-Rod is 38, and he's breaking down like a 65-year-old. So they have a lot of problems.
Steroids been very, very good to him.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And he used to say, he shot it in my hip. My cousin, when they had the press conference talking about, giving each other injections, and he shot it in his hip. And he's having another hip operation. So listen, the guy made his own bed. The Yankees made a mistake. They thought this guy was clean when they signed him for that big contract. They thought he was going to shatter the home run record, that he was the greatest player that ever stepped on the field, and they're paying for it right now. And nobody's going to pick this guy up. If he can never play again, they can maybe collect insurance money on him. But you know what? The guy doesn't want to go out, with a bad hip. He wants to come back, and he's going to want to try and play again. I don't think he'll be back this year. They talk about him, coming back maybe in June or July. who knows? You know, they said the same thing about Santana when he had his surgery and he didn't come back for a whole year. So you don't know what Alex Rodriguez, and right now they're still stuck with that contract. You know, he's got 5 more years at $114 million, and it couldn't happen to a greater team.
Hey, listen, you never know. He needs his hip to be in 100%. His hip has to be 100% because he needs to leap into the stands in a single bound in case he sees a hottie up there.
Exactly. You got to reach in to get that phone number.
That's
know,
right.
so
that's right. That's right.
Like I said, I can't stand the Yankees. It couldn't happen to a greater bunch of guys. And this whole thing, you know, if you look at the Yankees right now, Hal Steinbrenner is hell bent on getting that payroll down to $189 million by 2014. So, you know, it's not the time they're going to go out. I mean, they're sniffing around, you know, Josh Hamilton, but I don't think they're going to pull the trigger. I don't think they want that. He wants to, like I said, get it down to $189 million by 2014 so he can collect $50 million in revenue that in luxury tax that he won't be paying out because he has that number down. So with the Steinbrenner brothers, it's more about, you know, profit right now than winning, as opposed to what their father brought to the Yankees, and that was winning over profit.
Well, good old George is rolling over in his grave. That's that's for sure. He was like Al Davis, you know, just win, baby. That's all he cared about, and it's a shame. It couldn't happen to better fans, though, right? I wonder how long before the Yankee fans are chanting to get rid of it, have somebody else buy the team, get it out of the Sun's hands,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen, there's no doubt about it. Yankee fans are the biggest crybabies on the face of the earth, especially Yankee fans that have been, the younger ones that have been spoiled since 1996. I mean, like, let's say you were 10 years old, 12 years old in 1996. You've seen nothing but winning since then.
Yeah,
now you're well into your 30s. You've seen nothing but winning. You're expected to win. You pay all this money. You have a $200 million payroll. They've been spoiled. Now, all of a sudden, the tide is changing, and now listen, we have a budget here. I don't want to exceed this budget. And they're telling Cashman, this is what we want to do. And it's going to get less and less. You watch. I'm sure they're crying right now, the Yankee fans, because, to them it's all about, oh, well, don't worry, we'll buy it. We'll just get this player, we'll get that player. Well, you know what? George isn't here no more. So that's gone. That's not going to happen. Otherwise you would have signed Hamilton by now. They have been panicking though because of the third base situation. They lost Chavez. They made an offer to Keplinger. He decided to go to Chicago White Sox. So they throw $12 million at Youkilis, who didn't have a really good year last year, and $12 million for him. That's pushing it. I think it's a little expensive. So they're panicking right now. And if I was Youkilis, he also got an offer from Cleveland for a 2-year deal worth around $16 or $18 million. I would take the 2-year deal, and I would go to Cleveland and get reunited with Terry Francona. That's what I would do if I was him. I don't think he's going to come to the Bronx.
I think what we need to do is make all Yankee fans become a Met fan just for at least 2 years, just to see how it is, how much pain and suffering we go through. Same thing with Giants and Jets fans. You make an interesting point. A kid growing up in the 90s has never seen the Yankees struggle. That's not fair. That's not fair when you're talking sports teams. I mean, every team, every fan, I should say, has to go through and get suffer like we do. That's for sure. But hey, I hope the Yankees fall deep into the abyss. And hey, I can't. There's nothing positive I can say other than there'll always be in the playoffs. It's a good team. Let's talk a little hoops, man. Oh, wait a minute. There was some. Was there any other baseball winter meeting news you wanted to talk about?
No, I mean, I just wanted to hit on the Mets and Yankees a little bit. I think we covered it.
Yeah, I got my man John from LDL TV's in the chat room. He says Yankee fans are like rich kids. They cry when they don't get their own way. They're bullies. They're a-holes. why can't Jet fans go to the Bronx and beat up the Yankee fans? Because the Jets fans are, we got our own problems, John. We can't even find a quarterback, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Mikey and I try to hold off Jet talk because once we start talking about the Jets, that's the end of that. We don't get to any other subject. But let's talk a little hoops. My Brooklyn Nets, our Brooklyn Nets are in a funk, man. They were doing real well. I thought they were going to take over first place, but they've lost a couple in a row. Well, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, actually lost 3 in a row. Golden State came into Brooklyn last night, and former Brooklyn guy Mark Jackson, the head coach of Golden State, now they beat him up a little bit, 109-102. Yeah, you know what it is? The problem is they're not playing defense. Earlier, last time we spoke, we said that like guys like Joe Jackson and Deron Williams, they're struggling a little bit offensively. Well, they've picked up their game, and their defense has been struggling. In November, this team was giving up an average of 90.4 points per game, and in December, it's almost 20 points higher at 109.3 points a game. So they just got to start playing, basic defense again.
Guess what? We lost you, Mikey. We lost you. I'm ready to flip out here. I'm ready to lose my patience, So
Hey.
Anyway, yeah. Anyway, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Yeah, like I said, Brook Lopez has been out for 4 games. I need to get him back in the mix. And like I said, it hasn't been offense; it's been defense, and they've shown they can play defense. So just get back to playing defense, and the points will come, and they should be okay.
I think the Knicks are going to fall apart when Stoudemire comes back because
what?
They're doing well without him. If I'm the Knicks, I don't even want him back. Why would you rock the boat at this point?
Listen, if Stoudemire says if he's true to what he says, and that is, I have no problem coming off the bench if this team is winning. Well, this team is winning. It's got the best record in Eastern Conference. It's 14-4. They just embarrassed Miami in Miami last night, beating them again, 20-point game. If Stoudemire is true to what he says, he'll be fine off the bench. He's not a starter anymore. You can't put him out there with Carmelo. You're going to break up the chemistry of this team right now. You can't do that. I think Mike Goodman is smart enough to know that, okay, he's better off just coming off the bench like what we talked about. And if he comes off the bench and he plays, 12, 18 minutes a game, whatever that is, that's fine. That's fine. And you have to preserve him. The guy's fragile.
Exactly.
His back is terrible.
I was just going to say, what they need to do when he's ready is send him and go have dinner with Jason Kidd, and let Kidd slap him around a little bit and tell him the way it is, dude. Say, hey, you're getting older. You're not as tough as you used to be. You can't handle your body. Welcome the 10, 12 minutes a game and get a ring, maybe.
You know what? It's not out of the realm of possibility that they can get a ring because, it's really a solid team all the way around. The depth on the bench. And don't forget, they still haven't got Shumpert back. And once they get him, that's even more perimeter defense that you don't need offense right now. Defense, and that's what they're playing. They didn't do that at all under Mike D'Antoni. D'Antoni's system was totally not the system for the New York Knicks. And right now they're just playing good ball. Like I said, their depth on the bench, and they're just draining 3-points. They're draining threes like crazy. They have 56 more 3-pointers than the second place team in the league. They lead the league in 3-pointers, and the team behind them is 56 3-pointers behind.
Wow,
that's how much it's incredible.
Well,
they're just playing really good basketball right now, and their next 6 out of 7 games are home. Listen, they're going to be hard. They stay healthy. That's going to be a hard team to beat in the playoffs.
It's hard to cover a good 3-point shooting team defensively, But it's either you shut down the 3-point range shots and give up the inside shots, or you take your chances and hope that they cool off a little bit. But they do have all good perimeter shooters on that team.
Absolutely. And and the reason, bro, that they're getting all these good looks is because of their point guards. Do you really miss Jeremy Lin right now? Could anybody? I mean, no one even thinks about Jeremy Lin. And we said this before. 25 games does not make a career.
Was that Oriental guy?
Yeah, there you go. That's the guy.
Was that guy, Lin Sanity? Wasn't his name
exactly.
Lin Sanity
right now
or something?
It's felt insanity, right. And it's kid sanity right now because these two guys are just playing the position the way it's supposed to be played, and they're getting their guys. I mean, open looks, open shots, and that's why they're leading the league in 3 points, passing, and then they play well in the paint too. I mean, who plays with more passion in the paint than Tyson Chandler? I mean, is Tyson Chandler the best center in basketball? No, but does he play with as much passion as a guy like remember the guy Ewing used to play for the Knicks? I mean, that's how passionate this guy is when he's in the paint. So again, this team is going to be hard to beat in the playoffs. If there was a game that they were going to lose.
Well, we just lost you, Mikey. And one of these times I'm going to have to redo this whole thingamajigger. But it's very nerve-wracking, and I'm about to lose my
You know what it is?
my
I think I'm talking too much. No.
No.
What I was saying is if there was a game that this team was going to lose, it was going to be against Miami. For the reasons what I was saying is that Miami wanted revenge from the opening game in Madison Square Garden. They were coming off an embarrassing win, lost to the Wizards. And the Knicks were out there without their leading scorer in Melo. So if you were a betting man, I mean, how are you not going to bet on Miami to beat the Knicks? And look what happened; they lost by 20.
John from LDL TV is in the chat room right now. He's a big Heat fan. He's from South Florida, and he mentioned the Wizards game, them losing to a 1-13 team. But the Heat's the best team in the NBA. I mean, they're the team to beat, and they'll be there. So everybody's got to relax. Let's talk a little college football. I am a big college football fan. I know you don't follow it as much. My team's Alabama. I love them. They're like an NFL team. They did have a little letdown, but they're back in its BCS championship game. They're going to be playing Notre Dame, who let me just tell you how I feel about Notre Dame, Mikey. If I told you that I look at Notre Dame almost as highly as I look at the New York Giants, would you get a good idea what I think about Notre Dame?
Yeah, and I agree with you. I am not a Notre Dame fan.
Exactly. So I'm hoping that that championship game goes in Alabama's favor. And speaking of Alabama, I'm a little ticked off that McCarron didn't get invited to the Heisman. We were just talking about that before we went on air. I mean, here's a guy that was in the discussions up until they lost. I mean, why does college sports put so much emphasis on the O? It's like Floyd Mayweather, for God's sakes.
Well, you know what? But the other two QB candidates, Johnny Manziel of Texas A&M and Colin Klein of Kansas State, those guys lost. As a matter of fact, Manziel and Texas A&M lost 2 games this year. One to LSU and one to Florida.
I know.
So I agree with you. I'm like, why isn't McCarron invited? One thing that we look at when it comes to the Heisman Trophy, especially when you look at a quarterback, is the ratio of TDs to interceptions. And usually you want somebody with a 2-to-1 ratio at least. Well, Klein has 15 TDs. 7 interceptions. So he's made the 2-to-1 ratio. Manziel has 24 TDs and 8 interceptions. So that's 3-to-1. So he just blasted through it. But then you look at McCarron. McCarron's got 26 TDs and only 3 interceptions.
I know, and all three.
Are you kidding me?
And all 3 of those interceptions, 2 of them came in the loss to Texas A&M, and the other one came in the game last week against Georgia. So you can't knock Georgia. I mean, come on. And they're setting this year's Heisman up for Notre Dame. I don't care what anybody says. Notre Dame is the storied franchise everybody wants. The media loves Notre Dame, and they're setting up. I mean, I like Johnny Manziel. There's no question about it. He's exciting. I love those kind of quarterbacks. I love that kind of offense. But he's a freshman. What's the odds of them giving a freshman the Heisman?
They never have.
And I doubt they're going to this time. Although a lot of people like him, it's you never know. What sucks about that, if they did, then what do? You give it to him again? I mean, are you expecting him to taper off? On the other side of the coin, what if his team? What if he loses half of his team? I think Texas A&M is safe. I think they're a fairly young team, but I don't know. The Heisman just doesn't have the bite this year, it seems.
It doesn't, and you look at all these three guys here, and whoever wins is going to make history. Okay, like you said, you have Manziel, who's a freshman, and never before has a freshman won. Okay, so then you have the linebacker from Notre Dame, Manti Te'o. If he wins, he'd be the first exclusively defensive player to win. That's never happened before. And then if Colin Klein wins, he's the first player from Kansas State to win. But he's a senior. So I think these voters, especially hardcore voters, they don't want to vote for a freshman. They don't want to vote for a defensive player. I mean, Te'o won Player of the Year award, so he's already won an award. So, I mean, does Colin Klein win by default? I don't know. I mean, it's not a strong class.
No, it is a strong class this year. I mean, what about Murray from Georgia? What happened to him? How come he's not in the discussion?
But that's the thing. Why aren't these guys in the discussion? What it seems like the media says it's going to come down to these three guys right here.
I don't understand.
I'm saying why?
Yeah, that kid, Murray from Georgia, he's as cool as a cucumber, man. I mean, if the clock didn't hit zero, I happened to have been at a wedding, drinking a lot too much, and the bottom line is, I couldn't help but keep my eyes glued to that TV set, and I was amazed at what I was seeing. I mean, this kid with no time, no timeouts, nothing, just. All he needed with 3 more seconds, I bet you he scores at the end of that game to pull that one out.
Yeah, I mean, again, why is he not in the mix? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And, you go back to, like I said, this.
Guess what, man? We lost you again. I don't know what the heck's going on today with the phone system, but I don't think it's the phone. I definitely don't think it's the computer.
I was saying that, you there?
I'm here.
I was just saying that Te'o is not even the best defensive player in the country. I mean, you got South Carolina, you got Clowney, you got the kid from Georgia, Jarvis Jones. These guys had more tackles for loss and more sacks than Te'o. So why are they in the mix? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me.
No, I hear you, man. I hear you.
But that being said, if it's come down to these three guys, I think Colin Klein's going to win by default.
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to give it to a freshman. I don't think they're going to give it to a defensive player.
I think they are going to give it to the defensive player. I think they're going to give it to Notre Dame because he's on Notre Dame and because there's so much discussion. The powers that be are making it like, well, it's not fair to a pure defensive player. There's been so many, I think they are. I predict that he's going to get it, and because that's the way Notre Dame is. I mean, the media loves Notre Dame.
That's just terrible because you know what? There have been other players whose name has been brought up for the Heisman, defensive players in the past. I mean, as recent as Ndamukong and Suh. I mean, he was much more of a dominant player than Manti Te'o, and even going back further, Hugh Green. Hugh Green was a standout defensive player in college. So like you said, it's because it's Notre Dame. It's because of their undefeated season, because his team. That's all it is. If this guy, if Notre Dame had 2 losses on its record, this guy wouldn't even be in the mix.
Exactly. You're 100% right. If they had 1 loss on their record, they wouldn't even. Nobody would even talking about Notre Dame. So they're even talking about Notre Dame beating Alabama in the championship game, which would make me sick. But
I hope not. I hope not. And if Alabama wins, what's that? 3 out of 4 years national champions?
Yeah, they lost the 1 year in the championship, but 3 out of 4. It would be 3 out of 4. Yep. Let's talk.
I'm hoping.
Yeah, me too. Let's talk a little football. Let's start with the football, man. There's a lot to talk about. We're in. The middle of the season. We're actually in week 14 now of the NFL season. Man, did it go by quickly. The playoff picture is starting to shape up, at least it looks like so far. Let's start off with Big Blue, okay? Let's get these guys out of the way. I loved every second of them losing the other day to Washington. They come back today this week against the Saints. And I don't think the Giant fans have anything to panic about yet. I know there's a lot of discussion of the second half of the year with the Giants statistically, how they kind of go down the toilet and everything else. I think the only thing that I'm a little excited about with the possibility of them just going down the drain is they're all of a sudden they're kind of thin with the running back. They're relying on the rookie who's doing a good job. But do you think that's going to be a problem? Well,
I mean, they still have Bradshaw.
But he's hurt, right? Something's wrong with him, right? His leg.
No, I mean, it's the nagging foot injury that you hear about every week after week after week. But he's still playing. Brown is out because he broke his leg, and that was Bradshaw's his backup. So now they put the kid David Wilson in. And listen, the only reason David Wilson has not played this year is because he fumbled in the first game of the season, and that was it. Coughlin said, "You're in the doghouse." That's it. The kid's got breakaway speed. He leads the league in kickoff returns. So, he's an explosive back. They're just fearful of A, the fumbles, and B, him protecting Eli, which he's, according to him, he's been constantly working on protecting the quarterback, picking up the blitz. Other than that, there's no denying the guy's talent as far as a running back goes.
Well, let's just hope that he fumbles a lot because you know how much I hate them. Eli, he's talk about cool as a cucumber. I was in a discussion with a buddy of mine the other day, and he's cutting up the leadership skills of the Jets collectively as a team, and. I mentioned Eli. Eli's kind of a quiet leader. He is a leader of the Giants, but he's not he's not like his brother. His brother, who's finally shifted into second gear. They're looking pretty unstoppable. Denver with Peyton. But what's your thoughts about Eli? You think everything's going according to plan with him? They got the Redskins breathing down their backs in the East. Are they going to be able to catch the Giants?
I think the Redskins have a very good chance of catching the Giants. RJ3 and that whole team is just playing, unbelievable ball. I think they're a game behind the Giants. They just beat them. It's going to be tough. And you talk about the Giants' second half struggles. Well, there's no doubt about that. The record don't lie. Just look at their second half struggles since Coughlin has been with the team. That being said, they also won 2 Super Bowls. So they got a tough game against New Orleans. I think New Orleans is going to win this game. We'll get to our picks later on. But I think Washington surpasses them and wins the division.
And even if they end up with the same record, Washington's got all the tiebreak. The Giants, as all the Giant fans, you know how sickening they are. But if you look at the Giants, the weakest thing they got, forget the fact that they're a game ahead of Washington and Dallas in the NFC East, but they've got a losing record within the division. They're 2-3. Right. That's unlike most other division leaders in the NFL. They normally dominate their own division, and the Giants have fallen short there. So I'm hoping that all of that goes in the toilet. But you got to give. You got to give the Giants. I know that everybody, looks at the Giants because of their defense, but truthfully, with Eli Manning and those lucky receivers that catch footballs sticking in their face masks and stuff, they do have a good receiving core, and I think it's ultimately going to fall on the shoulders of Eli and his receivers.
So you thinking the Giants are going to hold on and win the division?
No, I picked Washington. Remember, I had Washington as my sleeper team. So
that's right.
I'm fully pulling for Washington. So I like Washington, and I think that for a team that has a rookie quarterback with the skill that RG3 has, and to be right now in Week 14, 1 game behind the division leader at 500, and seemingly to be like finally understanding the team working as a unit and with their coaching staff, who's really, people forget who the coach of that team is, and I don't know, man. I think Washington is in a better spot than their record indicates.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And don't forget, they got a rookie running back who was drafted in the 6th round, who's I think leading all rookies in the NFC in rushing yards. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, hey, listen, they're exciting too. I like watching. And guess what? Here's the best news for Washington and Washington fans is that their defense never was the issue. They had a solid defense last year, so their defense keeps their team in games, so if I'm the Giants and if I'm the Giant fans, I'm not worried about Dallas. I'm worried about Washington, and I don't know. It's an exciting race in the East. Hey, getting off of football for a minute, I want to get back to football in a sec. But I wanted to, you know what? Let's finish this thought because it's an important one. But before we talk about the Jets, I want to talk about the big fight this weekend. That's something we should discuss. But what's your thoughts, Mike, on the possibility? And I can't even believe that people are actually seriously considering this. And I'm lost for words. Banning kickoffs. What's your thoughts?
I can't believe either that they even didn't think about it. I mean, they're so afraid of with the concussions and one guy who's an advocate of maybe even banning kickoffs is Greg Schiano. Because Greg witnessed his player on Rutgers paralyzed on a kickoff, and I think that's something that's inside him that he always thinks about. You can't do it. It's part of the game. I mean, what are you just going to give the ball and put it on the 20 every time?
That's what they're talking about. I listen. The kicking game is not only part of the game; it's an important part of the game. Games are won and lost. I mean, special teams are called special teams for a reason. Years ago. The guy that wasn't playing at all was on special teams. That's not so much the case anymore. You have guys. Haven't there been guys that I know for a fact that I know Steve Tasker. At least Steve Tasker, I know for a fact, was made it to the Pro Bowl because of special teams. So I mean, there are special teams specialists, really.
Yeah, I mean, remember the guy like Steve Tasker?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Steve Tasker made a career being a special team specialist. You know what? Listen, the game is the game. It's been this way for since the 20s. It's football. You sign up to play football, and is there a risk involved? Yeah. Is there risk involved in NASCAR? Is there a risk? I mean, every sport there's a risk. And to say let's ban kickoffs and just give them the ball on the 20 each time, you can't do that.
No,
you can't.
Right.
It's just you can't let injuries dictate what you do on the field. Injuries are part of every game. Do you want to see an injury? No, of course not. Is it unfortunate? Absolutely. But you know what? You can't change the game. You already changed it this year by bringing putting the ball on the 35 for kickoffs, and we've seen less kickoff returns because of that. Okay, fine. I can understand that. But to ban them completely? No, you can't do that.
I agree about injury. It's unfortunate in every sport, just like you said, boxing and football, of course. But you know what? That's what you sign up for. That's why when you make it to that pro level, you're making $10 million a year. Does it suck? Is it a risk? Does it, does anyone want to see a guy become paralyzed, playing a game? No. But guess what? When you're working on the electric lines as a power guy, and you get electrocuted, you have a risk too. Every job has a risk. I think that's BS. And I think that whoever is leading the pack, trying to get that, listen, what do? You take away the rules of the game. You take away first of all, throughout the history of the NFL, they have ripped apart the fact that the dangerousness of the game. I mean, go back. You used to be able to grab a guy and tackle him by his face mask. Once they put face masks on the helmets, you were allowed to grab him. If you ever watched some of those old clips, they would just grab him and drag him and yank them around. So they already made some consolations about safety to keep safety in place. But you just can't take. That's like saying it's like the All-Star game. The Pro Bowl is a game I have not watched the Pro Bowl in the last 5 years because I think it's absurd. These guys aren't trying to win. It's like you're playing 3 Mississippi. You're not allowed to blitz. You're not allowed to do. That's what they want to make the regular NFL games. I think they're making a huge mistake, and I can't believe. And I'm not sure if there are any, but I would be shocked to hear that there's any fans that support a measure like that.
Fans and players. I can't see players wanting to change the game that way. I think why wouldn't you? If you're Devin Hester, you're going to say, yeah, it's a good idea. No,
of course not.
Of course not.
Well, you heard
That's crazy.
What's his name was saying. Brian Urlacher said flat out in an interview that if he had a concussion, he would lie to his coach.
Exactly.
He said he would lie. I want to get back on the field. And that's what most players would do. The whole concussion thing. Nowadays, medically, the term a concussion, it could be something very minor. In other words, you get hit on the head, and you could have had a minor concussion, even though you don't, feel any of the effects. And they're acting it like that. They mandatory bench. You're not allowed to put the guy back on the field. I mean, as a fan, Mikey, it's not like you're paying 25 cents to get into a ball game anymore. You're paying $150 or whatever. Are you going to want to go to these games and see? We might as well. You know what they might as well do? They might as well just give everybody a controller and play Madden football. I mean that's what it's coming into. That's what it's going to become. It's going to become like Madden football, man. I mean, no more humans.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I don't think the players are going to want that.
But do they have a say?
That's the only thing is that just like anything else, it all comes down to money. And they said if they take away the kickoffs, that reduces. They're gonna have lawyers and everybody just showing all these percentages. Well, if we take away kickoffs, it's gonna decrease the chance of concussion by 39%. That means 39% less lawsuits that'll be filed again. That's all gonna come down to that.
Okay, so when do they factor in the loss of revenue because the fans are going to say, "Screw this, I'm not going to that game." I don't even know if I'm going to watch it.
Let's see. Let me ask you a question. If they say, you know what, new rule, 2014, no more kickoffs. You put the ball on the 20. Are you still going to watch football?
I don't know.
Come on,
Mike. I swear to you, I had this discussion in detail with another buddy of mine that's a lifelong friend, and I tell you the truth, that to me that's as bad as saying that you can't rush the quarterback anymore. That's like saying, you know what, there's no more rushing. You got to do 5 Mississippi now. It's a joke. I know we're laughing about it, but it's a joke. I honestly, I am so close right now, and I kid you not, at just walking away from being a sports fan the way I am because of this kind of political BS. I cannot believe that in my lifetime I have seen such drastic changes with the way professional sports are handled, from salaries to who's good and who's not, to who's great and who's not. I mean, and rule changes, unbelievable. Look at baseball too. They want more home runs, so what does everybody do? They shorten their outfield. They give the fans what they want, give them more home runs. Crazy. How about some of the outfield designs? How do you field a ball in Houston? How do you field a ball? How do you field a friggin' ball in Houston? That how they let them do that? I don't know.
Was ridiculous.
That center field with the little rise and gully and valley in there. It's like a roof. It's like a roof.
Yeah. It's like a little mountain.
It is.
You got to have your mountain gear to go get the ball.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But
you know what? But listen. I understand what you're saying. It angers me to no end. If this rule ever passed, I have to say that I'd still probably watch football. I mean, maybe I won't go, as a protest. I don't know, but you think about it, I only go to maybe one, possibly 2 games a year, if that. But yeah, I mean, it would anger me to no end. And then you say, yeah, like, what's next? No rushing the quarterback, and you got to count 5 Mississippi? Yeah,
right.
that's not far behind.
I know it is. You can't even listen. Think of it. Talk to the old timers, all right? Talk to Ronnie Lott. He's not even an old timer as far as I'm concerned. I mean, talk to Ronnie Lott. What Ronnie Lott was able to do when he played in the NFL is illegal to do right now. You can't hit the receivers the way Ronnie Lott hit the receivers. How about the penalties and the fines that they're issuing in the NFL today, helmet to helmet, when half those helmet to helmets are either A, unavoidable, or B, not helmet to helmet? They're calling helmet to shoulder pad helmet to helmet now.
Yeah, no, they're going crazy with those fines. There's no doubt about it, and it's excessive. And a lot of times, the helmet to helmet is caused because the player that's going to getting hit, who's going to take the impact, crouches down at the last second. You crouch down at the last second, I'm aiming for your chest or your shoulder. You crouch down, your head's there. I hit you in the head. It's my fault? No.
Let me ask you, helmet to helmet, how do you think a guy like Larry Zonka or Earl Campbell or John Riggins when he was with the Jets and the Redskins, I mean, what do those guys think about helmet to helmet? I mean, geez, unbelievable. Yeah, the only guy, and I'll tell you, they're talking about this guy a lot with Detroit's had enough of him and everything else. I mean, he goes a little over the top, the Sue guy, I mean,
he's a little excessive. I mean, he just kicked the guy on the groin.
I want him. I want him on the Jets. That's what the Jets need. We need a guy like that. We do, Mikey. We need a guy that cares nothing more than to destroy the guy with the ball, and he doesn't care who he's got to destroy to get to the guy. I want my defensive linemen like that. I want those guys. I can't believe that they're fining him. He says he doesn't care. He'll pay the fines, but now his own team is turning against him.
Yeah, well, they didn't fine him against the kick to the groin of Matt Schaub, which they looked at the video and they said, well, we can't really tell if it was intentional. I could tell that was intentional.
No.
He definitely pushed his foot down. He wasn't visually seeing it, but he knew Schaub was in the area, and it was definitely intentional. But Dominic Insua reminds me of Conrad Dobler.
Oh yeah, he does.
He's the Conrad Dobler of 2012. He's
a black version of Conrad Dobler, right? But the best one was watching him stomp on the guy's arm. He did that. I mean, how do you tell that wasn't intentional?
No, absolutely. But he's a throwback.
I want him on the Jets, man. I think we need him. But anyway, let's hold the football thought for a second. Let's talk boxing, man. We got a big fight coming up tonight, as a matter of fact. Manny Pacquiao against Juan Manuel Marquez for the 4th time. Now, traditionally, Mikey, there's been a lot, and I do mean a lot, of great rivalries in boxing that have had 4 fights or more. Great names in the past, like Jersey Joe Walcott and Ezra Charles and Bo Jack and Ike Williams, Sugar Ray Robinson and Gene Fulmer. But Jake LaMotta and Sugar Ray Robinson was 6 fights, But the most recent 4 fight rivalries, Azuma Nelson and Jesse James Leija, they had 4 fights in the late 1990s. And the only other one is Israel Vasquez and Rafael Marquez, who had theirs, just several years ago, 2007 through 2010. Nothing like the years of yesteryear when Jack Britton and Ted Kid Lewis fought 20 fights. Today it's kind of a shocker to see 2 guys fight for the 4th time. But yet all 3 of these fights previously have been nail-biters, and you could argue for either guy of winning them. What's your thoughts on the fact that they're fighting for the 4th time, number 1, and number 2, who do you like?
I thought about it, and I said that I really didn't want to see this fight again, to be honest with you.
Not yet.
I'm going to watch it.
Not yet.
It's going to be a good fight, obviously, but I didn't want to see it for a 4th time. If you told me that the late Arturo Gatti was going to fight Mickey Ward for 4th time, I'd run to to get a ringside ticket for that. There's just something about this fight that it's so predictable that I didn't want to see it again. That being said, when I go back and I look at the previous fights, first fight I gave to Manny. That was the first fight where he knocked down Juan Manuel 3 times in the first round. And then Juan Manuel came back strong, but I gave that fight to Manny. The second fight I gave to Juan Manuel. And the third fight, which to me was the least entertaining, I gave that to Manny Pacquiao. So I gave Juan Manuel one of the 3. Some people argue that he won all 3 fights.
Yeah.
That being said, I think he finally gets his decision tonight in Vegas. I think he just wants it more. And when I say that, I'm talking about Juan Manuel Marquez. This is something that I think he wants more. I think Manny has lost that killer instinct. I noticed it in the Bradley fight, especially when he had him in trouble and he just didn't put him away. And of course, it was just a terrible decision that they gave the fight to Bradley. But I just didn't see that killer instinct in Manny. I don't know if it's because he's all religious now. I don't know what it is. And right now they're talking about, he wants to knock him out. Freddie Roach is saying the same thing. I just think it's going to I think Manny's going to come out and come out strong. I think Juan Manuel is going to, he's a great counterpuncher. He knows he has Manny's number. There's no doubt about that. And I think Manny might even see, he might even go on the canvas in the later rounds. I don't think it'll be a knockout victory by either guy, but I think Juan Manuel will finally get his much sought after decision tonight and win a unanimous decision over Manny Pacquiao.
I think it is going to be a knockout. I think the winner is going to win by knockout tonight. We had a post weigh-in show yesterday. We had my man Tony Treem was scale side. We were calling it scale side, and we were on Fight Now TV. And here's the inside scoop: everybody that was there said that Manny Pacquiao didn't look good. That Juan Manuel Marquez looked, chiseled. They said that they've never seen him look as in good a shape. He came in at 143. Manny Pacquiao weighed in at 147, which is uncharacteristic of him when he fights at welterweight. He usually comes in around 143, 144. They are talking about a knockout early. They want to make this fight early. Camp Pacquiao is talking about wanting Juan Manuel Marquez to fight like a man and stand toe-to-toe. All of the comments and all of the gist I'm getting out of Camp Pacquiao is that maybe the conditioning isn't there. Maybe he's hoping for a quick fight. Maybe he's got to shoot his load early in that fight because he doesn't have the condition anymore. You mentioned the Bradley fight. Well, if you go back and look at that fight, yes, I agree. I feel he was robbed. However, he was trying to steal those rounds. He was not doing much for the first minute and a half, and then come back, in the last minute or so, and try and win a round like that. If that's his way of getting around the training. Listen, this is a busy guy. This is a guy that's a rock star. And everybody always said, how does he do it? How does he do it? How does he do it? Well, he hasn't been doing it. His last 3 fights have all been lackluster performances, not Manny Pacquiao-esque. And this could be the reason, And I think you hit a very important part. I don't know if he's lost. I think he has. I agree with you. I think he has lost his killer instinct ever since he became a congressman. And ever since that he's been dealing with more humanitarian issues, I think he has lost his killer instinct. I think that the indication of that was if you look at the Mosley fight. Those guys tapped each other's gloves so many times I thought they were going to get a hotel room. I said it a million times. This isn't Manny Pacquiao. He wants to make friends. Even Juan Manuel Marquez in the last fight, man, he was trying to tap his gloves. Marquez is looking at him like, wait a minute, man. You want to be friends? We're friends after the fight. No, we're not friends before. We're not friends during, maybe after. And even that is questionable. As far as the matchup itself, I think that this fight would not have lost its shelf life like other fights that they discuss. This fight could have been a perfect farewell fight for both fighters' careers. It could have been in Mexico City where they could have sold out 100,000 tickets easy at one of those soccer stadiums. They both could have made, $20 million each easily and say goodbye, to give boxing a farewell. We're both retiring. This is our last fight. But now what happens is Manny Pacquiao, should he lose tonight, I think his career is over. I think his career is over. Manny Pacquiao or Juan Manuel Marquez should not ever enter this game as a gatekeeper, as a gauge for some young fighter. Manny Pacquiao has more to lose in this fight, Mikey, than Juan Manuel Marquez does.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that if Juan Manuel Marquez does win this fight and he finally gets that decision he's looking for or knockout, I think this could very well be his last fight. I mean, what better way to go out at 39 years old than to beat the guy that people have thought you have beaten in 3 previous fights? And you talk about Manny Pacquiao. Even though the decision he got robbed in the Bradley fight, it's still a loss on his record. He did coast for the first 2 minutes of the later rounds and then try to steal the round with the last minute flurries. So maybe that killer instinct has left him. And you said it. He's got so many things on his plate right now. How do you do it? How do you do it? Well, like you said, Billy, he hasn't been doing it. And if he does lose this fight tonight, I agree. I mean, it could very well be the end of both careers. Because I tell you right now, he loses this fight tonight, I never want to see him fight Mayweather.
No, I don't even want to talk about Mayweather. But the thing is that Manny Pacquiao, in my opinion, they should have had the rematch with Bradley. He should have been able to dominate Bradley if he can, and then do a farewell fight against Juan Manuel Marquez. As far as I agree, as far as Manny Pacquiao, should he lose tonight, it's over for him. I don't think the demand is there for him anymore. I think this guy's got a lot of pressure on him from the Philippine people. It's come to a head. I think he's aged quickly. And, as far as Juan Manuel Marquez, he seems very strong. I hope it's
natural.
Yeah, I hope it's just from
drinking. To say it, but
yeah, I agree with you.
In his corner now.
Yeah, well, look at his body. Go look at some of the pics.
Absolutely. Look at him.
I know.
Ridiculous.
I just hope that it's just from drinking his own urine. But
maybe his urine's got HDH in it. Or something.
Yeah, maybe. Well, they don't test for it. They're not being tested. They're not doing Olympic testing. And even that's clouded with, depending upon which country or which company you choose. So all of that stuff is BS. But anyway, my prediction on the fight, I think Manny will win. And I have predicted that he's going to stop Juan Manuel Marquez. I think it's in Manny's best interest to do that. A lot of people that contribute to our show and stuff have all gone the other way. Tony Treem says he'll be shocked if Manny Pacquiao can go 5 rounds. He said that's how bad he looked in the open workouts, and that's how bad he looked at the weigh-in yesterday. So that's the reports right out of Vegas.
Well, let me ask you this, since we both differ here. You were saying if Manny loses, he should retire. But you're picking him to win. Let's say he does win. Where does he go from here? Does he go back for a second fight with Bradley? What do you? If he does win, he's not going to retire.
He's got one more.
Where do you see him going?
He wants to fight one more year. He wants the Mayweather fight. I don't think Mayweather's going to fight him because Mayweather is going to have his own plate full with whoever he chooses in his next fight. I mean, if he picks Robert Dos Guerrero is going to give him all he can handle. I just think mentally and physically, Robert Dos is not going to be broken down, and that's Floyd's biggest asset right now. He's able to break a fighter down mentally and then physically. The other opponent that they're talking about for Floyd is Saul Alvarez. I don't think that Floyd has any trouble with Saul Alvarez. So, when you look at Floyd, how many more fights does he have left? He's 36 years old. Assuming he fights those 2 next, there's no room for Pacquiao. If Pacquiao dominates Juan Manuel Marquez, there's a slight chance that you see Floyd Mayweather against Manny Pacquiao because he's back to where he should be, and who knows if they can cut the deal. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that fight's ever going to happen. I hope it has a permanent blemish on Mayweather's resume. As far as Pacquiao, he loses. I think he's done. He wins. Maybe Timothy Bradley. Or even, hey, don't be surprised if you don't see a fight between if Manny Pacquiao beats Juan Manuel Marquez. Do not be surprised if you see a fight between Manny Pacquiao and Adrian Broner, because that would be the next best fight that the public will cry for. You watch.
At what weight? Broner just went up to what? He's at 140 or 135?
He just went up to
135.
135. But this is a guy that is a big 135. I think he's only got one fight at 135. And, I would think that they would make that fight 140, 143, something like that, which Broner would have no problem with. And considering Manny Pacquiao, unless he looks like, listen, you're not going to see an explode. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to see. I think that he's lost. I think he's lost the desire. When you see a guy at a weigh-in just smiling and posing for the cameras, and then you see his opponent with this look on his face like he just can't wait to get in the ring, that's telling me something. And I just don't think that he's got the switch anymore.
Let me say this. I mean, every weigh-in or every pre-fight, he's smiling when he walks to the ring. I mean, that's his MO. We've seen it all the time. He's always smiling. But when he gets into that ring, he's a different animal.
Yeah, he used to be. Well,
okay, but let me ask you this. This is what confuses me, is that you're picking him, and you're picking him to win by knockout, even though you're saying that he's lost that killer instinct.
I'm picking him because I think his back is against the wall so much that he's got to dig within. He's got to come out and do it. I'm giving Manny Pacquiao the benefit of the doubt with my pick. I also think that the age factor has to play into this. 39 years old at that weight, and considering the wars that Juan Manuel Marquez has been in, being in good physical condition is one thing. I mean, Vinny Matalone, if you look at some pictures of him, he looks like he's an Adonis, and there's nobody can throw a punch that he doesn't take square on the face. So looking good and looking mean is good, but let's see how it turns out. I think one of the negative things about Manny, and the reason why I think in a sense that he's kind of lost his desire, is his last fight. Remember, he made them wait because he was watching a Celtic game?
Yeah.
Guys, talk about underestimating your opponent. Listen, there's a lot on the table for Manny Pacquiao as far as a boxer. As far as making a living, the guy's in more commercials than I see him every place now. And he was fighting. They had some footage of him with with Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley couldn't even hold the heavy bag for him. He was claiming he had to dig in. Him and Reggie Miller were sparring with him, and they were playing hoops and stuff. It's on TNT. I think they already aired it. I think it was on the other night. But anyway. Okay. Let's get back to. I'm predicting Manny Pacquiao to win, even though I'm very disappointed in his performances. Should he lose, like I said, Mikey, it's over for him. But let's talk a little Jets. I was talking about Sue. I would love to see him go on to the Jets. Another guy that all of a sudden is being discussed as a possible becoming a Jet next year, which I certainly wouldn't mind. I just think he's maybe over the hill. Is Michael Vick? What's your thoughts?
Oh, I knew you were going to bring up that name, and
I like him. What can I tell you? I like him. I used to.
How could you like him? What he did with the dogs? You being a dog lover?
No, wait a minute. Time out. Listen, I have to draw the line there. I would never do that. But you got to understand something. Two things. Number one. That's a culture, man. That's a southern thing. I mean, they do that. I don't agree with it. Just like cockfighting, roosters in Mexico and stuff. I mean, I don't agree with that. I don't like animal cruelty at all. But that's his thing. The second part of that Michael Vick thing about the dog fighting was that Michael Vick kept his mouth shut. He let them take every penny he had. He sat in a can. and he never snitched on anybody else. You know damn well he wasn't the only NFL guy at that compound watching those fights and doing all that stuff. There were many other guys, and he kept his mouth shut. And I respect the guy. That's old school. That's a guy that, you know, does his crime, does his time, and he came out and he got back to the same level for a while anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, I obviously I respect the guy who knows how to keep his mouth shut. But as far as Michael Vick, the football player, would he be an upgrade from Mark Sanchez? And yeah, he would be an upgrade. But you're going to run into the problem where, you know, he's going to get hurt somewhere along the season, and you're going to have Sanchez, in there again. So you're going to go out there, get Vick, have him play 8 games or whatever, and then and have Sanchez come back in. I don't see it really helping the Jets, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, it'll probably be too much anyway, and the Jets would have to, you know, be too thin in other areas in order to keep Michael Vick and the salary cap in control. The Jet quarterback situation right now is kind of confusing. It's been confusing all year long, but things got even better when our guy McElroy went in there, McElroy, however you pronounce it. I love the kid from Alabama. I think I've said this before the season started. I thought he was actually the best quarterback as a passer on that team. He didn't do anything spectacular last week, except he won the game. Rex Ryan, I think, you know, I'm starting to believe that, you know, he lost all that weight and some of his brains and his toughness got lost too, because this is not the same Rex Ryan. And I think his job is in jeopardy. He doesn't think so. He said that one player, one decision isn't going to cost me my job. But I don't know about that.
Well, I thought the decision was predictable. I had a feeling it was going to be Sanchez. For a few reasons. One is the $8 million that's owed to him, guaranteed next year.
But what does that have to do with starting him for the rest of the year? I mean, you know, that's not.
It's very simple. It's very simple. You bench him for McElroy. You admit mistake, and you know how the whole system behind the door. This whole we can't do this. We got to play the player who get the most salary. We can't admit mistake. It's all about admitting mistakes.
Yeah, but it's all about winning and losing too, Mike.
Yeah, to you and I, to the fan. You know, we want to see what, and he keeps saying what's best for the team is Mark Sanchez. What's best for the team is Mark Sanchez. Now, here's the thing. We don't know what McElroy can give us because he's only been in one game in his whole NFL career. Okay, we want to see more of him. Okay, but he's not going to, these guys see things in practice that we don't see.
Yeah, but you know what it is? Yeah, but Mike, you know what he brought that Sanchez is failing? You know, listen.
Energy.
Exactly. Yeah. Spark. And you know what? In all professional sports today, and I get into this discussion. You and I have said it many times on and off the air, and I talk about it all the time. You know, the difference between, you know, the team that's 11-1 and the team that's 1-11 is one or two guys, maybe an injury, maybe a couple of bad calls in a game where you lose. You know, the continuity in the NFL is like no other sport. I love it, and that's what makes it the best sport on the planet aside from boxing. You know, I love it, okay? And with that said, you know, the talent level, you know, I'm not going to say that you know, he's better than Sanchez or anything like that in terms of who can throw the ball better, who can run around and everything else. But in terms of a spark and getting the rest of the team to perform at a notch above where they're performing right now, to harness some of their own talent, we need that spark. Mark Sanchez his weakest attribute may be that he's not a great leader. You know, he looks confused in there. I'm the guy that was sticking up for him the most because no block and none. But after watching last week's game, I mean, he couldn't hit the side. I thought that was Tebow throwing the ball. You know, I mean, this guy wasn't even close to his receivers. You know, he's lost it. Something's gone. You know, whether he's getting laid too much, I don't know what the deal is. You know, the bottom line is he's lost control of the team. Both he and Rex have lost control of the team. And listen, they're talking about the Jets making a run. Boomer Esiason is predicting that they're going to have a December to remember, was his exact words on the Fan the other morning. And, the bottom line is this, the Jets to run the table. I looked at this, Mikey, and, there's two teams that the Jets really, the way it sits right now, I doubt the Colts are going to just lose all their rest of the game. So there's really two teams that the Jets have to concentrate on, and that's the Bengals and the Steelers. All right. And the Bengals, they play the Cowboys this week. Then they go and play the Eagles. Then they play Pittsburgh. So one of those teams are going to lose one game. And then they close the season with the Ravens. The Steelers, they play the Chargers this week. Then they play the Cowboys, they play the Bengals, and then they close with the Browns. Are you telling me that the Bengals and Steelers are one of those two teams are going to lose two of those games? Actually, both teams have to lose two of those last games to assuming the Jets run the table. I don't see the Jets getting into playoffs.
No, I don't see them getting into playoffs either because I don't think they're going to run the table. What they have left is obviously Jacksonville. Then they go to Tennessee, San Diego, and Buffalo. Buffalo always plays them tough, division rival. I personally, I think they lose to Jacksonville this weekend, but we'll get to that later on. What concerns me is that let's say they do run the table. Let's say they run the table and don't make the playoffs. Okay, you run the table, you're a 9-7 team. What concerns me is that you know how Rex Ryan is. He's going to get behind that microphone and in the press conference and say, look, we're a 9-7 team. What if we would have had Darrelle Revis? What if we would have had Santonio Holmes? I mean, the possibilities are endless. We could have been 11-5. That's what concerns me about this team. They're delusional. They are It's either they're delusional or they know, like fans, like we know what the truth is, but they just won't admit it. So if they run the table, it concerns me that everything will be status quo next year. And we were close this year at 9-7. We lost our two best players, and we were still 9-7. Well, look who you're playing. You're playing garbage the last 4 games of the season. But you know what? We know that. Everybody else knows that. But the Jets don't seem to know that. So I'm hoping and praying that they don't run the table because it's just going to make next year even worse.
Well, the problem with the Jets is that they don't know how to build a team, Mike. Rex Ryan never thought of injuries. His depth wasn't there. He focused on the wrong positions. Traditionally, we talk about this all the time. They're the only team in the NFL today's NFL. Maybe 10, 20 years ago it was a little different. You massaged your top draft picks to let them, slowly, get into the mix. But that's not the way it is anymore. All the other teams, I look at New England. Who do I see? I see Alabama, their number 1 draft pick. He's starting. You look around the league. They got rookies starting at quarterback. They got, these guys are making immediate impacts. All the teams except for the Jets. The Jets this year, we're finally seeing Wilkerson. This is his second year. I haven't heard Cobal's name too much. I know he's playing. Listen, they don't draft well. Then when they draft, they don't even play their players well. He picks up old guys, bad mouths his former players, gives up on them, and then they are always facing him. They all have career days. Do I have to mention Rhodes' name? 2 interceptions, come on. It's just, listen, Rex Ryan, when he first got here, I loved him. I think his time is over. I think that offensive coordinator, I can't hate him enough. I think he's the worst. He shouldn't even be playing electric football, let alone coaching in the NFL. This guy, Tony Sparano, is the worst. The whole offense they don't even know who's out there when he calls a play. It's totally, you're right. The Jets need to lose every friggin' game, but that's not going to help them because they won't utilize the draft. They'll pick some obscure guy, off their board that's different. Tattlebaum is another idiot. The Jets are in some serious trouble, and running the table, as much as you want to think of it, okay, based on statistics, the Jets do have an edge of running the table. They should beat Jaguars. They should beat the Titans. The Chargers are falling apart just like we both predicted they would at the end of the year. And the Bills, the whole season, assuming they run the table, the whole season would be on the line in that game. They would have to win. But again, you'd be relying on the Bengals and the Steelers to lose 2 of their 4 final games, and I don't see that happening with the schedules. Plus, Ben Roethlisberger's back with the Steelers. They won with Charlie Batch. I mean, how do you expect? People are predicting. I can't believe the experts are actually predicting. Not only are the Jets going to run the table, but they're going to get in the playoffs. That means that they're assuming that these 2 teams are going to lose half of their remaining games, and I just don't see it, man. I just don't. No, I don't see it.
I don't see it either. And how do you run? How are you so sure you're going to run the table with this with such an inept offense that we have? We can't score points.
We can't run a screen.
It's ridiculous.
Mike,
and you talk about that spark that McElroy brought. When he came in, the offensive line blocked, the running backs ran, and the receivers made catches
I know.
that they normally couldn't catch.
Exactly. You need that. This time of year, you need that. Whether Sanchez is just benched for the rest of the year or what. I will say this. If Rex Ryan used the benching and then McElroy comes in and wins the game, and if that was the slap in the face Mark Sanchez needed, then fine. And maybe Rex, is worth the millions he gets paid, and we don't know what we're talking about. But if that's the case, and Sanchez comes in and looks great, fine. But if Sanchez comes in and lays an egg in the opening drive, I pull him very quickly. I don't let this game get into the third quarter like I did last week.
They're not going to pull him. Look, if he throws the interception on his first pass, they're not going to pull him.
They should.
But they're not. They're going to give him at minimum a quarter, most they'll give him to halftime. That's what they're going to do. He has a bad opening drive. They are not going to pull him. You know it as well as I know it. That's not what Rex is going to do. He's going to keep him in there as long as he possibly can to right the ship and to get it right. And if that takes a quarter or a half, he's going to do it. If he's miserable for the first half, he's going to get yanked. But you know what? I don't think he's going to be miserable against the Jaguar defense. And look, you know me. I've been bashing Sanchez a lot longer than you have.
I haven't.
I know you haven't.
I know.
I've been saying since last year. Everybody, get rid of Schottenheimer. I said, do you realize there's a reason? There has to be a reason why Schottenheimer is not taking the handcuffs off this guy and just letting him throw the ball, because he can't. He's not that good. He was over-evaluated. Okay, he's a game manager. He has a good offensive line. He has a good running game, and he's got receivers. Okay, he can run a team. Okay, you can't just give him the ball like give it to Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers and say, here, win the game for us.
Yeah, but wait a minute.
He's not that quarterback.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Those elite quarterbacks also have running games, receivers, and line. You have to have that's where the Jets fail. That's where the Jets front office and Tattlebaum and Rex Ryan and Woody Johnson, that's where they fail, the Jets and the Jet fans, because they don't build the building with a solid foundation. They try to take a couple of key players and they sprinkle them in here and there, and then they hope that they're going to be superstars. It doesn't work. The Bill Belichick design works. You got to get the right players. You got to have that strong foundation and the mental guys, the players that are, fit in mentally into the scheme. The Jets didn't have any of that. Come on. We lost Revis and we lost, what's-his-face, the receiver. But the bottom line is they're both gangsters. We didn't want those. Revis was caused more trouble. Rex Ryan created the problems with Revis, making him, right. The best. He started believing his own press clippings. You know how I feel. What I'd be doing right now with my man Richardson, I'd be laughing at that. Revis may not even ever play again. The injury that he has may be career-ending. You won't know until the spring. So it's crazy stuff. One other thing. Let's talk Tebow, right? Tebow was a total. Listen, we talked about it before the season started. If they used Tebow the way I thought they would, I thought we could have gotten some mileage out of this guy. As an athlete, not as a quarterback, but as an athlete. The Jets failed on every single angle with Tim Tebow, Mikey. Every angle. All the experts said that it was going to be a bad situation. The Jets said, no. Of course it's a bad situation. But what makes it worse is we didn't even get to see Tebow. It's not like we can even blame Tebow for not coming through because he wasn't on the field. Just, again, who do you blame? Do you blame Rex for that, or do you blame that idiot Tony Sprono? I just don't get it.
You know who I blame? I blame Woody Johnson. Woody Johnson brought Tim Tebow here to sell tickets. Bottom line.
Well, he's not doing that.
Why else did you bring him here?
Nobody's buying tickets.
Bro, let me ask you a question. Do you think that Rex Ryan and Mike Tannenbaum sat down and at a meal and said, you know what would really help this team? Tim Tebow.
No, but maybe Tony Sprono did. The guy that thinks the guy that thinks the Wildcat is a big success in the NFL, which it does not work. I mean, the only time it worked for the Jets is when they had Brad Johnson running it. Brad Smith. I'm sorry. He was the only one that ran it, and he ran it well. Tim Tebow. And the whole thing. How stupid does Rex Ryan look? They suit him up for the game. He's got 2 broken ribs in. That was 3 weeks ago. The guy hasn't been able to take a snap yet. I mean, come on, man. The poor guy. Hey, speaking of Tim Tebow, before we talk about trade rumors, then we'll get into our picks. Did you catch the new TiVo commercial with Tim Tebow sitting on the couch with the 2 kids? Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Oh man, it's great. They it was on ESPN. It was on a fight night. I happened to see it, and it's a TiVo commercial.
Right.
And Tim Tebow sitting on the couch, and there's a girl and there's a boy, and the girl is sitting there, and she's saying to Tim Tebow, the little girl saying to Tim Tebow, and she starts busting his chops. Did you ever hear of Tebow? And he's like, yeah, and he's being himself, smiling. And she's going, well, it's a lot more accurate than you can throw a pass. And they're really, really cutting him up really bad. And he's laughing, right? And all of a sudden, the little boy looks at him and goes, Tebow, man, don't let her get into your dome, man. Don't let her get into your dome. And it's hilarious. I'm surprised you haven't seen it. If you can, Google it or something. Because it's pretty funny. But anyway, where do you think he's going to end up next year? Everybody and their brother is saying that he's definitely not going to be with the New York Jets next year. Where do you think Tim Tebow will go? Or let me ask you this: do you think he does stay with the Jets?
No. There's no. Why would you keep Tim Tebow here for another year? He's probably begging to leave New York.
Where's he going to go?
He made the wrong decision. He had a choice.
He had no. I don't think he did have a choice. Did he?
Yes, he did. He could have went to Jacksonville. He could have turned down New York. Absolutely could have turned down New York.
Yeah, but did Jacksonville offer money for him?
Yeah, he had a choice. He chose the Jets. And his way of thinking is, I'm going to choose the Jets because I'm going to compete for the starting job, and what better place, New York, and be a starting quarterback.
I thought
Tebow was here next year.
I thought that the Jets, they got the better. They made him the better offer. I thought. I don't know. I thought he didn't have an
offer, but he had another offer on the table, and instead of going there, he went to the Jets.
Yeah, that's crazy. But
there's no way he comes back next. And if you're Tim Tebow, are you going to come back next year to hold a clipboard and to come in for like 4 or 5 plays a game?
But nobody's going to pay him. Nobody wants him.
Tim Tebow's career in the NFL is a very short career because he's not a quarterback. Unless he says, forget it. From now on, I'm a fullback. Then we'll use him as a fullback.
Too slow.
But as long as Tim Tebow says I'm a quarterback, he's not going to play in the NFL.
He should be a tight end because I think that
I don't know if he can catch. You threw one pass to him this year, you hit him in the head.
I know. You can't blame Sanchez for that one. It's almost stuck in his helmet. If Eli threw it, it would have stuck right in his helmet.
Exactly. That's what he needs. He needs a quarterback like Eli. That's the problem.
Right. Well, they're talking about him possibly going to Jacksonville.
He should. I mean, for a business decision, he'll sell jerseys. He'll put people in the seats. It makes sense for him to go to Jacksonville. And you know what? He's got a legitimate shot. I mean, at starting over there. If they want to change the offense to suit Tim Tebow because he does not run a traditional offense, he's got a shot because Blaine Gabbert stinks. Chad Henne is better than Blaine Gabbert, but I mean, you could definitely have a quarterback competition between Chad Henne and Tim Tebow to see who gives you the better. You have more of an opportunity if he goes to Jacksonville. And there's no way. I mean, it was a failed experiment. He was brought here to sell tickets. You can't tell me otherwise. No one can tell me otherwise. And they're not going to bring him back. There's no way.
The only thing my big defense of Tim Tebow is we never knew how good he could be because he never played. So
well, we saw what he can do. When he was with Denver, and a couple of those games, like one in particular, I was watching it because I had players in it. On my fantasy, I was watching the Chicago-Denver game last year when he should have lost that game. But, what's his face didn't run out of bounds and stop the clock, and Chicago made mental errors, which gave them the ball back. Then they missed a field goal, which gave them the ball back. So he had opportunity after opportunity, and he got lucky. He got lucky in a couple of his games. Okay, in the Jet game, he was dominated the whole game except for the one drive, which was the last drive. If he would have had that drive early in the game and they dominated the rest of the game, they would have lost that game. So you know what you got with Tim Tebow. I mean, he's just not talented.
Yeah, but but the way you utilize a guy like Tim Tebow is the way you're supposed to utilize a running back. You need to give him the ball.
That's it. Then you say, okay, Tim Tebow is now officially our fullback. If you want to make him a fullback, and you put him into block for a runner. Now, I'm not saying on the Jets. I'm saying he goes to another team. Let's say he goes back to Denver and he's the fullback and he blocks for McGahee. That's different. If you want to say, I think from now on, I'm not going to consider playing quarterback. I'm just going to be a full-time fullback. That's fine. He doesn't have blazing speed, but he's a big dude. He's got some speed. He's 250 plus. Make him a fullback.
Well, you laughed at me with my idea of how he would have worked well with the Jets, and I still believe that. If he was in every single play and you had to watch him and occasionally you let him run it, occasionally you let him throw it, it would have helped a little. But you're right, he's gone. But let's get into the NFL picks. You're up. It's Mikey +1 going into Week 14. First game on the schedule here is going to be my Skins going up against the Baltimore Ravens, which is a real tough game for me to pick. Who do you like in that one?
Well, the Ravens D is hurting right now. Don't know if Terrell Suggs is going to play. He's got the bicep injury. He's questionable. People have been running on that defense of late. And look, they got beat by Charlie Batch last week. So if they have problems with Charlie Batch, what's going to happen when you're facing RG3 and Alfred Morris and a healthy, what seems to be a Pierre Garçon, who has been on fire the last two games against Dallas and the Giants. I think it's an easy win for the Redskins.
I agree. I'm picking the Redskins. My only concern, I'm a big Raven fan, but my only concern with the Redskins is that they have a letdown game after a huge win over the Giants. But they are home, and I think this game could be a season game for them. They beat the Ravens. Then they get to start pounding their chests, beating the Giants and the Ravens back to back, and make a run here at the end of the season. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm picking Washington. The Browns, my Trent Richardson is going up against Kansas City. I'm taking the Browns in this one, Mikey, because the Kansas City. Well, how do I say it? Oh, they suck. What do you like?
Yeah, I'm picking the Browns as well. It is a home game for them. I do like them at home. Trent Richardson leads AFC rookies with 827 yards. Josh Gordon leads the rookie receivers with 646 yards. The Chiefs had that emotional victory that broke an 8-game losing streak last week at Arrowhead Stadium. Emotional because of what happened with their linebacker and the murder-suicide. And I think, reality sets in again, and the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and like you said, they do stink. So I like the Browns in that one.
Ben Roethlisberger returns to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's home against San Diego. As much as I would like the Chargers to beat Pittsburgh to give the Jets that glimmer of hope of running the table and squeaking into the playoffs, I'm going with the Steelers. Reluctantly, but I'm going with the Steelers.
Yeah, you know what? The Chargers it's a sinking ship. And if the Chargers don't win another game this year, it wouldn't surprise me. Their offensive line is banged up. They're starting, 3 backups on their offensive line, which is not going to help them when they're facing the Steeler defense. Roethlisberger obviously is talk about, bringing a spark. Have him back is definitely going to bring a spark to that Steeler offense. I don't see any problem with the Steelers beating the Chargers this week.
Next game, the Colts are home against the Titans. I mean, what can you say bad about the Colts, man? I mean, Andrew Luck looks exactly like everybody thought he was going to or had anticipated he would evolve into. I don't think anybody thought he would come out and be as competitive as he is. He's exciting. I look forward to watching him play, and that's why I'm picking the Colts.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, this team is probably going to make the playoffs. They're 7-1 in games that are decided by 8 points or less. So meaning, when it's a tight game, they're in it and they're not losing those games. Andrew Luck, like you said, what could you say? This team loses Peyton Manning, who's probably one of the best quarterbacks in the last 15, 20 years. And then now they got Andrew Luck, and again, they got another great quarterback for the next 15, 20 years. Leads the AFC in passing with 3,596 yards. Yeah, I see no problem with them handling the Titans in Indianapolis.
You just mentioned, you just made me sick. The Colts, they picked Peyton Manning for 12, 13 years, elite quarterback, and they go and they get a next one, and we haven't had an elite quarterback since Joe Namath for the Jets. And speaking of the Jets, they're traveling to Jacksonville. They're a better road team than they are a home team, at least under Rex Ryan, and I think that they think they're still in it. I think this week is going to really show us about the Jets. If the Jets are as gutless as they may very well be, they won't beat the Jags. But I think they're going to at least beat the Jaguars. I'm not saying they're going to run the table, but I'm picking the Jets over the Jags.
I'm actually picking the Jags over the Jets. I think another reason besides the money reasons that I mentioned before that Rex Ryan is starting Mark Sanchez is because they're not home, and he won't hear it from the hometown fans like he did in the last game against the Cardinals. He's terrible. He's terrible. And we could say all you want about he doesn't have talent around him, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, but he still makes rookie mistakes 4 years later. Okay, he still does that. He shouldn't be doing that, but he still does it. I don't think he's there mentally as well as physically his tools, because he has no tools to work with. And I think it's the mental aspect with Mark Sanchez. I think the Jags just come out on fire and just, right away take an early lead on the Jets, and I don't think they catch up. I'm taking the Jags in this one.
You bastard. Wait till I report you to Jet Nation, you bastard. The Bears are going to be traveling to Minnesota. Minnesota's a sleeper team this year. They're doing a lot better than I thought they would. The Bears laid an egg in their last game. I'm picking the Bears. I'm a Bears fan. I like the Bears, and I think that I think they're going to right the ship, and I think they're going to go deep into the playoffs this year. I'm picking the Bears.
I'm actually picking the Vikings in this one. Brian Urlacher is done for the season, and he's such a big part of that defense. They've allowed 110 yards plus the last 5 games rushing. Adrian Peterson is the leading rusher in football with almost 1,500 yards. The Vikings are 5-1 at home. They're a different team when they're at home. They're going to want to, beat the Bears, not because they're making a run for the playoffs, but to prevent them from winning the division. I'm going with the Vikings with the upset.
The Atlanta Falcons, they shock me. I don't know how they're 11-1. I just don't. They're 11-1, right? Or 12-1. Yeah, 11-1. And I just don't know how they're losing. They squeak out games and everything else. They're playing the Panthers, which is an exciting team. I like Cam Newton. I think that. Excuse me. I think Atlanta's going to find another way to win. I'm picking the Falcons.
Yeah, I'm picking the Falcons as well, even though, the last game that they played, it came down to the last few seconds, and, Matt Ryan hits the field goal that gives Atlanta the win, and at that time they were still undefeated. This team basically is playing for home field advantage throughout the playoffs, which I think is going to be very important for them because, last year they were in the playoffs and boom, they go right to the Meadowlands and get crushed by the Giants. So this team needs home field advantage. They want to play in Atlanta throughout the whole playoffs. So that's what they're playing for because the division title is basically locked up. So I think they're going to come out and want to win this game. And until they clinch home field advantage, will they maybe let off the accelerator a little bit? But right now it's full steam ahead, and I'm picking the Falcons as well.
Next game, Tampa Bay going against the Eagles. You said it last time. The Eagles are a team in trouble. I didn't want to admit it. Not that I'm a big Eagles fan at all, but they just were so good for so long, but no more. I'm picking Tampa in this. It's an exciting team. I'm not saying they're going anywhere or not going anywhere, but I think they're going to get a W in the win column against the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm picking the Bucs as well. I mean, the Bucs are, they're in contention for a wild card. I mean, they're 6-6. Greg Schiano has done a really good job with the organization. They got a dynamite runner in Doug Martin. Freeman's playing really well. And like I said, they're playing for a wild card spot. They have something to play for where Philadelphia has nothing to play for, nothing left. I think the team is going to start to slowly but surely quit on themselves and not play. Nick Foles has been, named the starter for the rest of the season. Who knows if McCoy is going to come back with his concussion? I see no problem with the Bucs, beating the Eagles.
Next game, Buffalo Bills are playing against the St. Louis Rams. Buffalo scares me as a Jets fan. They always play the Jets very good. But they're a 50-50 team, Sometimes they play well and sometimes they play awful. I hate the St. Louis Rams. I don't like anything from St. Louis, actually. But I give a lot of credit to Fisher. He's done a great job. The quarterback is good. The running back, Steven Jackson, is good. This was the hardest game for me to pick out of the whole schedule this week. But because it's in Buffalo, I think Buffalo's just riding on an emotional high after last week's big win. I think it's going to be an ugly game, but I think Buffalo's going to squeak it out. I'm picking the Bills.
I'm actually going to go with the Rams. Usually I won't do that because, like you said, they're playing in Buffalo. But the Bills are hurting on the offensive line. They have 3 backups playing, and even though they lead the league in rushing, Rams got a good rushing defense, and with 3 of the Bills starters out on the offensive line, I think that's going to hurt the running game. Fitzpatrick is not, he's not a quality passer. He's a game manager. And I like what Fisher has done with this team, and I think they're going to hang with them. And they beat San Francisco not too long ago, and I think they beat the Bills. So I'm taking the Rams.
The next game is the Cincinnati Bengals are at home against the Dallas Cowboys. The Bengals are a sleeper team. They're playing well. They're on the verge of the playoffs. Actually, if they keep winning, I mean, Jet fans like myself want them to collapse just to give the Jets a chance. But they're playing Dallas, and Dallas is still alive too. And I don't know if Romo's the man or if he's not the man or whatever the case is, but. I think Dallas does believe that they're going to get in the playoffs, and it has to start this week, really. I think this is going to be a very entertaining game. I think it's going to be a close game, and I think the Cowboys are going to squeak one out for the Jets. So I'm going with the Cowboys in this one. Okay,
well, that's another one that we're disagreeing with. I'm actually taking the Bengals. The Bengals are no longer to me a sleeper team. People know about them. I mean, they've won 4 straight. After a 3-5 start, and Dalton has been on fire. Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis has had 3 straight 100-yard rushing games. They're playing in Cincinnati. They're playing for the playoffs, even though Dallas is as well. Dallas just has, to me, a history of falling apart. I mean, Dallas on paper has always come in and look like a good team on paper, but for some reason they just make mistakes and fall apart, and they just don't do it, especially when it comes to important games like this. I think the Bengals take it, and they beat them at home.
49ers going up against the Dolphins. The Dolphins have been playing good lately, but, the 49ers got something to prove. They lose. They started their own BS controversy with the quarterback, which I thought was kind of a stupid coaching move. You get an injury with a guy that was doing well. I'm not saying the backup isn't good. I'm not saying he's not the future. I'm not saying any of that stuff, but I thought it was a big mistake to choose that, the backup quarterback, the rookie, to fill in for Smith. 49ers have to win this game. I know it's not contingent upon them getting into playoffs or anything like that, but I think mentally they need to win this game, and I'm picking the 49ers to not only win, but win big.
Yeah, I'm picking them as well. Basically, it's the Dolphins' anemic offense versus the 49ers' stingy defense, and defense wins games. But in regards to what you said about the quarterback situation, I actually agree with what Harbaugh did because
That's it. You're dead to me, Mike. You're dead to me now, Mikey. That's it, man. You disagree
Listen to me. Listen, I'm going to tell you right now. You know what you have with Alex Smith, okay? There's definitely more upside to his name just slipped me here.
He's got a lot of tattoos. I know what you mean.
Yeah, but there's more upside
to
that quarterback.
It's a weird name. Not Kirkpatrick.
Kaepernick.
Kaepernick or
Kaepernick.
Yeah, Kaepernick.
Kaepernick.
Yeah.
But there's more upside to Kaepernick, okay? Where there is no upside. You know what you have with Smith. Kaepernick gives you that extra dimension with his legs as well, and he's got a stronger arm than Smith as well. That being said, he was also drafted by Harbaugh in the second round 2 years ago, last year. That's his guy. When Harbaugh came into the 49ers, Smith was already there. He moved up to draft Kaepernick because that's who he wanted to be his future quarterback. So basically, he's just using his guy. That's why I don't see anything wrong with it. And I do agree that I do think that he gives them more of an upside in the future. So that's why I defend his decision. And listen, we just talked about being Jet fans. Do what's best for the team. I think he made the decision that's best for the team. He saw more upside with Kaepernick than with Smith. He gives the team a spark that Smith doesn't.
It all started, and where did it all start? In New York against the Jets, right?
There you go.
Remember?
There you go.
Giants.
So anyway, yeah, I'm picking the 49ers as well.
Giants against the Saints. The Saints have been on a tear lately. They're typically not good away from the Dome. They're playing at Giants Stadium. But lucky for them, it's not going to be any bad kind of weather or anything like that. I absolutely can't stand the Giants. I'm wishing nothing more than a complete collapse and that they don't even get in the playoffs. And because of that, I'm picking Drew Brees and the Saints. Who do you like?
I'm picking Drew Brees and the Saints as well. Now that you said that you were picking Brees, I was thinking about switching to the Giants. But
there you go. Why don't you?
I'm sticking to my pick because you know what? You look at his record versus the Giants. He hasn't lost to the Giants. He has 11 touchdowns and 0 interceptions against the Giants. And you know what? Even though their chance at making the playoffs is very slim, they do have a chance. And if there's a little bit of a chance, Brees is going to want to run the table and finish at 9-7. So and again, the Giants historically just don't play well in the second half. And I picked them to beat Green Bay, but this could be a letdown game for them. I picked Washington to beat them, but this could be a letdown game for the Giants as well. So I'm picking the Saints as well.
Seattle Seahawks, the team that you just can't figure out, going up against the Arizona Cardinals, a team in worse shape than the Jets. I'm picking Seattle in this one. There's not much to say. I'm taking Seattle.
Yeah, and Cardinals are dreadful, and Seattle, you know what you get. I mean, this team plays well at home, bottom line. So, and they're playing in Seattle, so I'm taking Seattle as well.
Packers against Detroit. Detroit's an exciting team. I know they're going to play the Packers tough, but I'm going with the Pack.
Considering that the Lions have lost 20 straight at Lambeau, I'm agreeing with you. I think they make it 21. Packers are fighting for that division, and Lions are out of it. So I'm picking the Pack as well.
And finally, Monday night game, New England Patriots against the Houston Texans. The Patriots make me sick. They're running on all cylinders. Belichick seems to make the right decision all the time. Their receivers don't drop balls. Brady doesn't make any mistakes. I mean, it's a fine-tooled, oiled machine. I mean, you got to search really deep to try and find any weaknesses on this team. Even when you think you found the weakness, it turns out not to be a weakness. With all that said, I'm picking the Texans because I can't stand New England. And the Texans are a pretty damn good team themselves, and I think that this game could very well be the AFC Championship game. So I think the Texans have to win in a sense, and if they can win on the road in New England on a Monday night, I think that's really going to tell us something about the Texans.
I agree with you, but I'm picking the Pats. I agree with what you said, but I'm picking the Pats. Texans are a good team. Both teams are riding 6-game winning streaks. Texans are 6-0 on the road. However, they do have injuries to their secondary. And if you have injuries to your secondary and Tom Brady is your opposing quarterback, you're in trouble. So I see a lot of passing from Brady, and he's going to take advantage of those injuries in the Texans secondary, and they lose their first game on the road. And I'm picking the Pats.
Well, there you go. We got looks like five differences. So maybe I catch up. Maybe I sink deeper into the abyss. Who knows?
I'm thinking you're going to sink deeper into the abyss. But that's
no, you're not thinking. You're hoping. You're hoping. All right. On this day, December 8th, I got two things in New York sports history. On this day, December 8th, in 1877, Yale.
It's your birthday. Isn't that your birthday?
No, I was born 2 years later. Come on.
Okay, sorry.
Yale and Princeton play a scoreless football tie at the St. George Cricket Grounds, which was located in Hoboken, New Jersey. Check this out, man. 15 players on a side is all they had on these teams. So talk about playing both sides of the ball. Over 2,000 people showed up on this day, December 8th in 1877. And guess what they paid to get in to watch this Yale versus Princeton game, man?
3 cents?
25 cents.
Oh, okay.
25 cents has to be what? Maybe 20.
That's a lot of money back then.
1877? Yeah. That's $20. You're talking 10, 12 years after the Civil War. So
right.
Great stuff there. That's what happened on this day in 1877. Also on this day, Cookie Gilchrist in 1963 of the Buffalo Bills sets an AFL record with 243 yards rushing and ties a lead record with 5 touchdowns in a 45-14 rout over the. Come on, tell me who they beat in 1963. 45-14. No, they had already changed their name to the New York Jets.
Okay.
Whenever you want to see these, how many times do you look at a guy breaking a record or having these outrageous games and stuff? You want to look at the highlight reels and everything. 9 times out of 10, it's against the Jets, Jets, and that's what happened on this day in 1963. Any final thoughts, my man?
Final thoughts. I'm looking for you to sink deeper into the abyss. I'm looking forward to watching the fight tonight. I think, like I said, I think Manuel finally gets his decision, and looking forward to seeing you next week.
All right, my man. I'm hoping, as a Jet fan, as much as I'm disappointed with them, I hope they win tomorrow. That's for sure. And hey, listen, if you are watching the fight tonight, make sure you tune in and come on into the chat room. We're going to have a post-fight show immediately following the Manny Pacquiao and Juan Manuel Marquez numero cuatro fight. So, Mikey, I'll be looking forward to that. And maybe we'll see you in the chat room, my man.
Sounds good, brother.
All right. Until next time. Ciao, baby.